Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's tech brief for HCL OneTest. My name is Kim Splain, and I'll be your moderator today. I'd like to go over just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. First of all, the session is being recorded, so if you prefer not to participate in the recorded session, please go ahead and drop from the call now. And then during the webinar, we'd like to ask you to please type your questions in the question panel, in the question box in the GoToWebinar control panel, and then one of our team members will respond as soon as they can. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll take a minute to review some of those questions that came in during the presentation. So thanks again for taking the time to join us. We hope you enjoy the webinar. Now I'm going to hand things over to Adam to get us started. Adam?
Thank you, Kim. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Team Spaces, the next generation in collaboration. This is part of our HCL OneTest Tech Brief series, and we're going to take you on a short journey today. So I'm Adam Bassoni. I'm a product manager on the HCL OneTest side of the house. Relatively new to the organization. I just joined within the past year. So I'm really excited to be here. This is the first opportunity I've really had to present to an audience. So thank you for being the first people to experience this. With me today, I have Stuart Walker. Stuart, if you want to introduce yourself.
Absolutely, yep. Stuart Walker, part of the HCL OneTest technical advisor team. So I'm sit within our DevOps organization, helping customers to understand our OneTest portfolio, how it can work for you, and general dog's body, giving demonstrations and things like that. But pleased to be here.
Awesome, thank you, Stuart. So just as a quick overview, this is for OneTest. This is part of our DevOps portfolio. We have a solution for basically every single step along the way in your continuous integration, continuous deployment needs. So if you haven't had a chance, take a look at our portfolio, take a look at what we have available in addition to OneTest. If you even have existing integrations or solutions or tooling available in your DevOps environment, take a look at what we have because it might be able to complement and work with it. We integrate with a lot of popular open source solutions, and we help build and enhance what you have available. So just as a quick reminder, we are in the OneTest area of the DevOps portfolio here. And what is OneTest? OneTest is a complete testing suite. We provide UI testing, performance testing, API testing, as well as service virtualization and test data fabrication. These are all available in a deployed solution, but it is also available within the HCL OneTest server as well too. And what is the HCL OneTest server? The HCL OneTest server brings enterprise-grade scalability, collaboration, and security to your testing needs. It's basically a server solution, as the name implies, for being able to run and execute your tests. It allows for configuration, execution, and monitoring of these tests. And because it's a server solution, it can be integrated with your continuous integration and continuous deployment solutions. It's available as deployment on premises and in the cloud as well, in a cloud of your choice as well as via our hosted HCL service, HCL Now service. We are growing this product significantly with every release, and this ties in significantly with the team spaces we're going to be talking about today. So I guess why is a server solution so important? And that kind of leads us into the next area here, talking about how the environment has changed in the past few years. Things have changed. I don't know if anybody has looked outside, but there apparently is a small pandemic going on, and it has really changed the working landscape. Work from home is now a larger deal than it has ever been, and the workspace dynamics have changed significantly as well too. And that kind of brings us to where we're at in the slide, where I want to bring up some key statistics here. As of today, 16% of companies in the world are 100% remote. 77% of remote workers say they're more productive when working from home, and 85% of managers believe that teams with remote workers will become the new norm. This is a dynamic that just looks like it's going to be the future. It is not going to revert back anytime soon, and if anything, it is going to continue growing there. Because of this change, existing challenges and new challenges and obstacles are growing as well too that need to be addressed. And one of those key items is issues around communication and collaboration. And that brings us to what Team Spaces is designed to help solve. As I said, collaboration is more important than ever. You may have test projects organized throughout an organization, dozens or hundreds of solutions, depending on how large your organization is. And if you are hosting these on a server or on any location, it can get out of control fairly quickly. And when I say out of control, I mean people may organize where these teams are collaborated in OneNote, Confluence, Jira, Word, and Excel. We have seen it all, especially plenty of Excel spreadsheets and plenty of Word documents where people store, hey, these are the tests for these various teams, these are the organization of the team, and these are the groups that go together with that. When you tend to do that, when you have information living in disparate systems, information can easily get out of sync and out of date. And when that starts happening, you start running into mistakes. And when mistakes happen, mistakes start costing money. Common sense is projects should be organized around the teams working on them, and that brings us to Team Spaces. It's designed to help with collaboration and allow you to create a single source of truth. And by utilizing Team Spaces on the OneTest server, you can organize this work around the teams doing the work. So one way to think of Team Spaces is as logical partitions for your test projects. Via the OneTest server, you're able to organize, separate and secure the spaces for your test projects. Team Spaces allow you to control project memberships, roles, visibility, and manage your licenses. And all of this is possible via the OneTest server. So that lead in I had with the OneTest server, it comes around full circle with this and allows you to execute on Team Spaces here. So just as a quick overview on what you can do with Team Spaces, from the main dashboard, you're able to see what teams you are members of. As indicated here, you're able to browse your individual team or browse the different team projects that have been created and exist within the organization. And you are able to join public teams and request access to private teams. And if it seems like I'm going through this real quick or these slides are fairly quick coming by, don't worry. Stuart's going to provide more information in the demo here, but I wanted to give you a quick overview right before we jump into that. So as I mentioned, being able to set privacy on teams, you are able to manage your security with these teams as well too. You're able to set who's able to access these team spaces, so you can make them either restrictive or permissive. Permissive is anybody with OneTest access can come and join a team as they see fit. Restrictive is you need permission or authorization to be able to join the team. You're also to assign roles in terms of responsibilities for members of a team's project. And as well too, you're able to control team visibility. You can make teams public, in which, as I showed in that previous dashboard there, you're able to see all the teams, you're able to join, you're able to request to join, even if it is a restrictive access. Or if you have a team set to private, you cannot see the visibility on that, and you actually have to be invited to join by a team owner or administrator. And this is extremely beneficial if you have security needs and you're dealing with sensitive data. A great example is GDPR, where you have test projects that are working around that data, and you don't want anybody with access to OneTest, just anybody with access to OneTest, to be able to see and deal with that. As I mentioned as well too, you're able to assign licenses, work with the projects, and configure your license servers. You're able to maintain your license allocation, which again is good if you're trying to administer and manage your OneTest servers, and you're able to assign named users to your licenses as well too. But like I said, I'm going through this fairly quick, and I just want to provide a real quick overview of that before I hand it over to Stuart, who will go ahead and take us on the demo. And Stuart, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hand this over to you. Go ahead and show us the journey here. I'll ask our audience as well too, As well, if you have any questions during this process, please write them down and save them for the end of the presentation. We are more than happy to be able to answer your questions and show and be able to show what else we have here. Stuart, go right ahead.
Perfect. Excuse me. Thank you, Adam. So yeah, just thought we'd take a few minutes to add some color to what Adam just talked us through, give you an idea of how these team spaces work and some of the ways in which they might work for you as an organization. So I think it's fair to say that team spaces are aimed at some of our bigger customers. If you're a small organization, a one pizza team, it's unlikely you're going to need something like team spaces. That doesn't mean OneTest isn't for you. It's just a feature that you're probably not going to make use of. But if you're a larger organization, you're delivering projects to potentially different customers or different stakeholders in your organization, and you want that separation, you need that logical partition that Adam talked about, then team spaces is really for you. And I'll just show you how, by way of an example here, I have a logged in session to our OneTest server. I'm logged in as myself. I happen to be an administrator of this system, so I can create team spaces and I can assign members to them. And you can see I've got these 3 team spaces here, team A, or the A team, the B team, and the C team. Adam over here in a separate secure browser session, he can actually see some of the team spaces, but he can't see everything. So Adam is able to see some projects in the A team, because the A team, if I go and take a quick look at the configuration of it, signed me out because I didn't refresh it just before the session. If I go into our A team configuration, then we'll see that I've set this, Adam talked about this earlier, as permissive and restrictive. I've set this team as being permissive. In other words, people can join this project under their own steam, if you like. They don't need to be necessarily approved to join this particular team space. And on that basis, Adam is able to join the A team space. That said, there is still control over the projects. If I just make this a little bit bigger, you can see I could, as Adam, go and create my own project. And I could create that, and we could go on and create some tests and things like that. But if I wanted to join a project, well, each project has its own public, private, and permissive restrictive capabilities. So if I wanted to join this vacation booking project here, I'll click yes. And in this case, again, I just need to relog it in, refresh the session. In this case, I'm going to get asked potentially, do I want to send a message to join that project? Or in this case, yeah, it sent the request to join that project. So if I jump over to one of the owners of that project here, I'll actually see that there are some members requesting access to this project, and I could go in and grant access. And obviously this is at a project level. Projects are not the new feature in OneTest, but I wanted to highlight that just to make it clear that they are 2 separate things. So here's Adam's request to join my project within my team space in the A team, and I can accept that. And then you'll see Adam is now, as a part of the A team, a member of my project. But if we go back to looking at the other team spaces, Adam is able to see the B team. He isn't able to see the C team. And why is that? Well, that's because the B team is a public team space and the C team is a private team space. So if Adam wants to join the public B team, he can request it, but it is a restrictive team space. So there is going to be a request sent to ask, can Adam join this project? And I'll absolutely approve that. But in terms of the C team, because we've set the privacy of that team to be private. Nobody can see this team unless I specifically go in and manage the team space in terms of the members and nominate Adam, if I could spell, as one of the, let's say in this case, let's add him as an architect. Now, of course, Adam can join that team and he can see all of the secret security scans we've been doing and various other things that perhaps we don't want other people's eyes to be on. So that's a little bit about the permissive, restrictive, public-private nature, a little bit about the partitioning. What else do these team spaces give us in terms of that partition? Well, if I switch over to my A team, one of the things we've done is we've said, from a licensing perspective, we'd like to be able to allow each team control over their own licenses. Quite often in large organizations, you might have a single pool of licenses, and that makes it difficult to do things like cross-charging if you're running a central team and you need to be able to share the cost across different projects who are using the tools. But it also means that it's difficult to allocate the appropriate number of licenses at the right times for different teams. So if we know we're ramping up on a particular important project, we may need to allocate a fixed number of licenses so that we don't get to Monday morning of the start of the project and find all of our licenses are in use by somebody else. So being able to earmark licenses per team space is one of the first features. Being able to design and lay out a system model that relates to our team space, to our environment within which we are testing. So what is a system model? Well, it's a composition of the different aspects of our environment, and they can be services, they can be UI components or websites, applications, and they can be back-end components like databases. And the relations between those components and the drill down into them, and there are lots of other features that if you're familiar with some of OneTest, you'll be familiar with. We won't go into those today. So this system model is shared across the team, but each project will contribute its own architecture into that system model, and that can be viewed by others, but not necessarily interfered with. So system model is important because it gives us visibility over what's already there, who's working on what, and potentially where there's opportunities for reuse and so on. In terms of other things that we organize and control at a team space level, things like our agents and intercepts. So if we have, for a given team, we have some access to some cloud resources that we pay for, we obviously don't want those cloud credentials given to other people in the organization because they'll go ahead and use it and we get the bill. If we have some dedicated, in my case here, I've got a remote Kubernetes cluster or a remote Docker instance, or potentially even some static agents when I'm running performance tests in my data center. Those things can be registered to a team space. They're visible to me and my projects, but not to other people. Similarly, when it comes to resource monitoring, of course, there are things in my environment that may be relevant to a subset of projects or all projects, and it makes sense to define those resource monitor configurations once, rather than having every project replicate this monitoring infrastructure. So here I've just set up one resource monitor by way of an example, just to show how at this team space level we can define these things, we can label them, and then later on in my vacation booking project or my bookstore project, I can go ahead and run my performance tests, selecting the appropriate agents from our pool of team space agents and the appropriate resource monitors as I wish. The last thing I won't go into in any detail, but just to highlight that from a virtualization perspective, at a team space level, it's similar to what we're talking about in the system model. It's useful to know what is being virtualized in the environment, because I may have some downstream system that somebody else is also using. They may be virtualizing it at a time when I want to test, and that may affect the results of my testing. So we're going to surface some of those bits of information that will help me understand what is virtual, what is real, and so on. And of course, you know, if I wanted to create a new team space, it's very, very simple to do. All I need to do is define a name. So maybe we'll go for Team D. I can specify a URL alias, and this is you know, useful from an integrations perspective. So if I'm integrating one of my pipelines or one of my external tools to trigger tests or to perform some sort of action, obviously I need to know the team space I'm working with, so I can you know, set up anything I like in terms of the URL alias, and then select whether it's restricted, permissive, public or private, add descriptions, add users, and ultimately, you know, create. And that team space is now going to be visible to whoever is a member. And I think with that, we're certainly open to questions, but I will pass back to you, Adam, if I can figure out the controls.
I think I was able to grab that back, Stuart. Is everyone able to see my screen fine? You're able to see it, right, Stuart?
Yep, we can.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Awesome, very awesome demo there. And showing is definitely better than me talking about it. So just to wrap up here, and before we start taking your questions or any things you might have, suggestions for us, I wanted to say as well too, as Stuart mentioned at the beginning, team spaces are here to take advantage of if you need to. If you're small enough and you don't need to leverage them yet, you don't have to use them. But as your organization grows, OneTest is designed to grow with you, and this is a tool available in your toolkit for being able to leverage. Again, as well too, as I was saying, we are more than open for ideas on enhancing this feature. It's relatively new. I believe it rolled out with OneTest 10.2 last year, just shortly before I joined the organization. And again, too, if you're using this, if you're toying around with it, playing with it, you have ideas for what you want to be able to see done with it, I encourage you to go to our ideas portal at the URL listed here on the slide. It's available to more than just team spaces for ideas. So if you have ideas for other features on OneTest as well too, please go ahead, come to that location and submit your ideas. But at this point, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. And I'll say, if you have any comments or questions, we're going to open the floor and be able to take and answer those. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Stuart. We do have a couple questions. The first one is, does it cost more to have more team spaces?
I think I can answer this one, and the answer is no. Team spaces are part of the OneTest server, and you're able to leverage and take advantage of them. There's no additional cost with that.
All right, great. And then what are the different roles in OneTest server?
I could jump onto that one if you want. I will just add to Adam's answer before, because one of the things I said about partitioning the licenses and providing licenses to different teams, while it doesn't cost you any additional money to use team spaces, you do need to allocate the licenses separately to a team space. So we leave it up to you to partition your licenses in our license manager. And you can, you know, do so at will. So from a billing perspective or a charging perspective internally in your organization, you can effectively pass on that cost and charge for a team space if you wish to do so. But from, you know, your purchase from HCL, Adam's 100% right. We're not going to charge you for use of additional team spaces. In terms of the roles, there are you know, several roles inside the product, but what it boils down to is, you know, do you want the users to have effectively read-only access, or do you want them to have read-write access? Do you want them to be able to execute tests? Do you want them to be able to view results? Do you want them to be able to create system models and some of those components that we're going to reuse, like the resource monitors and so on? So we have members, we have architects, we have owners, and we have viewers. And then there is, of course, a global sort of administrator role, which then allows you to create these team spaces because you wouldn't just want people to be able to do that necessarily willy-nilly on your shared infrastructure. Yeah.
All right, perfect, thank you. And then we have one final question so far. Are the system models unique to Team Spaces, or are they unique to the project?
Yeah, good question. The system models effectively belong to the projects, but they filter up to the team space. So they are visible at the team space layer, but they're editable at the project level. So if I, for example, add a new component into my system model in my project area, so I don't know, some new service, and I have some tests for it. What I would do is I would define that new system component, I would commit it to my model, and that would then appear for everybody else to see in the system model at the team space level. But when it comes to associating tests or associating virtual services or looking at the results of tests on a component by component basis, that can be done only at the project level. So you would need permissions at project level. So we're kind of giving, global visibility within the team space to what the architecture looks like, but the actual data, the configuration, the results, and so on, that's all still contained within the project and the various different roles that we described earlier.
All right, perfect, thank you. I don't have any other questions right now, so I believe that brings us to the end of our presentation. As the name says, it is a tech brief, so we'll give you a little bit of time back today. Thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will be sure to connect you with a member of the team. Otherwise, we hope to see you at one of our upcoming tech briefs for OneTest. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.